Welcome to the SBI podcast, offering CEOs, sales and marketing leaders ideas to make the number.
Welcome to the SBI podcast, a weekly broadcast dedicated to helping you make your number, but getting your peers to share with you how they make theirs. Today's topic is injecting buyer behavior into product strategy. My name is Greg Alexander. I'm your show's host. I'm also the CEO of SBI. And joining me today is Greg Shepard. Greg, would you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. I'm Greg Shepard. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Pepperjam, formerly eBay Enterprise Marketing Solutions. And I've been doing startups for about 20 years. I've done, this is on my 20th startup that I've built and exited. Real excited to be on your show. Thank you, Greg.
20 startups that you've built and exited. That's pretty impressive.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I do many at one time. It sounds ridiculous, but I actually do more than one at the same time.
What does Pepperjam do?
Pepperjam is a performance marketing company. If you look at performance marketing, we split it into two sides. You have search, social, display, and then on the other side, you have affiliate. And the difference is that affiliate is less a channel, even though people consider it to be a channel. It's really a way of paying for advertising. So if you pay based on the sale versus paying based on the click or impression or a flat fee, then it's considered affiliate.
Okay, got it. Very good. All right, let's jump into the questions. And again, just a reminder to the audience, our topic today is injecting buyer behavior into product strategy. So my first question for you, Greg, is what buyer problems are you trying to solve?
I think the first problem is to figure out how to get good products using a feedback loop for content generation. So if you look at it in the space of affiliate right now, the industry itself hasn't changed for a very long time. So what you see is the programmatic buying, which was display, evolving. You see things like retargeting and abandonment evolving. You see search, social, display evolving. And on the affiliate side, you haven't really seen that evolve in terms of using technology to make the process of buying more programmatic, simpler and easier to go about. So there's a lot of frustrations in the industry on the affiliate side. Namely, if you look at things like the content environment, how they say, when the tide comes in, all ships rise. Well, in this world, the tide that came in was content. So this is social media, blogging, etc. All the ships rose. The affiliate industry rose as well. But there was a lot of issues around that have to do with attribution of those transactions, building tools and processes and ways to work with those particular publishers in a way that monetizes their traffic, the way that those users digest content. So that is the first problem that we're trying to solve, is to really handle that content issue, as well as trying to develop the whole affiliate industry more towards the programmatic buying process. Okay,
very good. All right, so we're talking about product strategy today, injecting buyer behavior into it. So what buyer behaviors are you observing in this space that provide evidence that this is a real problem worth solving?
So there's a separation from, I consider there to be a separation from problem and opportunity. So problems are easy to solve with solid feedback, a loop. Opportunities are oftentimes more insightful and come from a lot of experience and understanding and sort of visualizing what's going to happen in the future based on other channels. And opportunities are usually the inch-wide, mile-deep vision that is not easily seen. That's part of the reason why it's an opportunity, because everybody else misses it. So as far as the problem side, really there are out-of-control costs, inconveniences, and frustrations. And that's what we see. So we start by doing that. And then the next thing I do is I usually look at what constitutes excellence. So what specifically constitutes excellence that results in the what the target desires most out of a service. The conveniences, I think, are a big deal. And then I look at what areas the target would pay more for, what areas the target would do themselves. Again, I look at what frustrations. This is a big thing I find. And then I develop empirical KPIs to drive the ultimate product towards the success that the consumer or the end client is looking for. So the behaviors come out of that process.
Okay, very good.
That's a process anybody can emulate.
Yeah. So I like the distinction between problems and opportunities. The problem here is out of control costs and inconvenience. You're observing that in the marketplace, and you're going inch wide, mile deep. These are all great pieces of advice for those that want to inject buyer behavior into the product strategy. Let me take you to my next question, and number 3 in this segment. So what benefits of your product do your customers buy on?
I think in the ad tech or ad marketing space, it always comes down, you hear strategy all the time. People are talking about, you have to have strategy, you have to have strategy. Ultimately, what strategy comes down to is either saving or growing revenue for the client. Mm-hmm. So they buy based on your ability to grow their revenue or save them money, period. So that coupled with what I said before, which is the elimination of frustrations, by using the process stated in the first part there, and understanding what I call framing, which is a process of understanding the way the brain works. So, when you're actually sitting there talking to a client, most people think that when they're talking to a client that the person who's listening is listening from the same part of the brain as the person talking. So usually what we use when we're talking, like right now, is the neocortex, which is the back of the brain. The person who's listening is actually listening from the frontal lobe, what they call the crocodile brain. And the frontal lobe is the ultimate gatekeeper. It's looking for, have I heard it before? Have I seen it? Do I know it? Is it going to frustrate me? Is it going to cause me anxiety, cost me money? What are all the negative things? Why should I not let this go to the neocortex? So when I'm building products, the first thing I think of is, how is this going to be communicated to the prospect to get past the front of the brain and get to the neocortex where you can actually make a transaction happen? So when you look at the products, you first look at how this product can be framed. So if you say, for example, starting out with a process, big data, everybody's heard it. The front of the brain is going, yeah, heard it, what's next? So you build products that sort of go around these things that are commonly said and attack things they haven't heard of. That is going to eliminate their personal frustration. That's going to limit their liability in pushing this thing forward and being your champion, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's how I sort of position things. Okay. And that's how I position these benefits that you're asking about.
Yeah, okay. So keep it simple, save or grow revenue, and then think about getting past the front part of the brain and framing the product in such a way that can be received by the customers. My last question.
Even with your content, this is, I think, one of the biggest things is, setting your salespeople, your hunters and farmers up for success. So you have to start by looking at how this is going to look when it's pitched. Yep. I think, those benefits need to be framed that way.
Yeah. When we think about problems worth solving, I have a client of mine that tells me, you want to sell painkillers, you don't want to sell vitamins. Mm-hmm. And which I love. It's such a great way of thinking about that. I find sometimes that product strategists such as yourself, they're so intelligent, they love innovation, that sometimes they might be too far out ahead of the market. So how do you determine you don't make that problem?
That is extremely common. And so what I do is I back into it. So I go really far out in the future, and then I back into the immediate problem. So I think about first things first, right? So I look at, let me give you an example. Right now, in the future, if you look at what's going on with ad blocking, right? So one of the products we build is compliance products. And you look at ad blocking. Well, in Europe, some of the countries have, made it a law. And in the United States, it's not really a law yet. But if you look in the future and you say, in the past, and you look at spam, what happened was first email clients started to filter spam, and then it became a law. And the same process is happening right now with ad blocking. So if I go into the future and I say, we're going to give you all kinds of reports and analytics on ad blocking and handle all that sort of thing, yeah, that's on the roadmap for the future. But right now, people want to get off the blacklist. They want to get off of any browsers that are blocking their ads from being seen. So I handle that first. And then I back into it as the market evolves, as the market starts to pay attention to these things, then I start to develop products that pay attention to them. But I know already what's going to happen in the future. The other thing I do is I start drafting content to create interest in an area of a product that I want. If I want to accelerate the evolution of where I think something is going to go in the future, I'll start writing articles, sort of with my ideas and concepts and commercial insights into what I think is going to happen in the future and why, and start developing excitement that I already have a product for.
Yep. Very interesting. All right. Well, this is probably a good spot for a pause here. So, just to summarize what we just heard from Greg, my audience has been hearing about the changes in buyer behavior for some years now. But up to this point, their focus has been on modifying their sales and marketing strategies to reflect on this new buyer behavior. And it's a very important thing to do. But I'm encouraging everybody listening to this or watching this show, and our audience tends to be a little bit more bleeding edge, to just don't stop there. Drive this buyer behavior into your product strategy. And if you do, the product will be a lot easier to sell, as Greg has just explained to us. All right, we're going to take a quick break, but before we do, I want to let our audience know that we just released our annual workbook for 2017, titled How to Make Your Number in 2017. It was written for executive leadership teams inside of companies with aggressive revenue growth targets who have a lot on the line. If you are planning your year for 2017, you're going to want to read this because it will increase the probability of you making your number. It's about 250 pages, and it's basically a playbook for what the best of the best are doing out there in B2B sales and marketing right now. If you want to get a copy of it, go to sbi.tips/2017 workbook. One more time with that, sbi.tips/2017 workbook. We'll be right back. You're listening to the SBI podcast.
Tired of watching highlights from a meaningless game on SportsCenter? Tired of watching a stock picker on CNBC talk about a company you don't care about? Introducing SBI TV, a monthly web TV show focused on what you do care about, making the number. Broadcast on the internet, the show features people just like you, sales and marketing leaders trying to grow their revenues. Watch your peers as they discuss their behind-the-scenes strategies for making the number. Finally, a TV show for busy executives that won't bore you to death. Go to salesbenchmarkindex.com/TV or go to YouTube and search for Sales Benchmark Index to subscribe.
Welcome back. You're listening to the SBI podcast. I'm your host, Greg Alexander, and today my guest is Greg Shepard. And today we're talking about injecting buyer behavior into product strategy. So let me jump back into the questions. So Greg, this problem, so your macro problem is you're either going to save somebody money or help them grow their revenue. And as it relates to what you're working on right now in the affiliated marketing space, you're focused on, fixing this out of control cost issue and these inconveniences. Are your buyers or customers, prospects, are they already investing time, energy, and money in this area to solve this problem? Like, what are the alternatives?
They are. They have been for a long time. Affiliate is the largest growing channel in online advertising, and it always produces a higher return on ad spend than the other channels. But what I find that they're doing is they're going the wrong direction. So, most often these targets are looking at a red herring. So they're looking at what everybody else is doing, and they're reading articles published by people that are trying to sell a certain strategy, a certain way to solve a problem that's in the wrong direction. So let me explain what I mean by that. Everybody is going the direction of tracking and attribution, tracking transactions and clicks and channel overlap to see if, traffic is coming from multiple different sources, and attribution is attributing the traffic or sales to different sources so that they can sort of tweak their ad spend and figure out where they should be cutting costs and where they should be saving money. And that's fantastic. But this has been going on for, the better part of the last 5 years. And Google has dominated this market in a recent purchase of Ad Knowledge, and they're giving away this technology free. And as everybody knows, when Google buys a big player and starts giving it away free, the adoption rate is massive, and it sort of kills everything around it. So all of these clients are focused in this direction, and all of these competitors are focused in this direction. And what they really should be focused in on is saving and making money, not, figuring out how to prevent channel overlap, because channel overlap is going to happen. Usually there's 2-3 clicks into a click stream, meaning the consumer will 3 or 4 times, they'll go through a process and shop, before they actually buy something. They're trying to eliminate those different periods of injection and the costs associated with them. But what they really need to do is just accept that that is part of the process and figure out how to create more sales and increase the average sales price of those consumers when they go through that process.
Okay. All right. So they are investing time in this. So you're going after a pretty well understood problem. There's different ways to do it, but there are alternatives. So these competitive solutions that already exist that solve the buyer's problem. So how do you stand out in a noisy market?
I mean, I think again, this is going back to the premise about, looking at, well, what is their frustration, right? So the frustration of our particular targets are that these targets are trying to figure out a way to increase their revenue by monetizing a list of affiliates, right? A list of publishers that have real estate that they can place ads on. And how do they figure out how to pull more money out of there? Well, they have to get better placements. They have to be visible more, just like you would in search. They have to have better campaigns and better offers for the consumers. And that's one thing. Now, they also have to figure out how to make sure that there is no channel overlap and how to make sure that the publishers out there are compliant to the rules and regulations of that particular merchant. This specific area is something that everybody else is ignoring. We have created a process called dynamic matching, which uses an algorithm put in through an onboarding process of the advertiser and the publisher to match them up like a dating site based on a whole bunch of different pieces of data. It says, look, this is who you should be working with. This is how you should be working with them. Here's what you could do to monetize your situation. Instead of just going in there and saying, here's data, here's who made sales, here's how many sales you made today, here's the name of the publisher, which is pretty much useless and basically just analytic data. The competitors are all going that direction. We're going the direction of let's figure out how to help them monetize and move this to a more action-oriented process that allows them to really engage using the data that's there and make it all actionable versus just looking at the data and then making the advertiser go offline, go find the affiliate, email the affiliate if they can even find how to get a hold of the affiliate and hope that the affiliate actually replies. Yeah. So, we're building a marketing platform versus a tracking platform.
Interesting. All right, so this segment teaches us that we don't operate in isolation. So even though we think we are the best at what we do, our customers and prospects have alternatives, and you just simply can't neglect competitive positioning. As you just heard from Greg, he's got a very strong competitive position. So as you're working on injecting buyer behavior upstream, not just into the sales channel, into the marketing channel, but also the product strategy, keep that in mind. It's a noisy world out there, so pay attention to competitive positioning. All right, here's something of value to the audience. So SBI's new app and website allows you to create an account, and you can personalize your experience with us. For example, you can select how often you want to receive content from us, in what format, and on what topic. Download the SBI app at Apple's App Store, or go to our new website at salesbenchmarkindex.com/register. We need to take another quick break. We've got one more segment with Greg Shepard on product strategy, so stick around after the break. This is the SBI Podcast.
You need to make your numbers, and you want to hear how others are making theirs. You go online to find out what your peers are doing, but can only find sales consultants selling you. Sound familiar? Then the SBI Podcast is for you. Each week, hear directly from a peer how they are making the numbers. Go to iTunes, search for Sales Benchmark Index Podcast, and subscribe today.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. This is our last segment with Greg Shepard on the topic of injecting buyer behavior into the product strategy and not stopping by injecting buyer behavior into your sales strategy and marketing strategy. I'm Greg Alexander, your host of the show and CEO of SBI, and I have Greg Shepard with me again here today from Pepperjam. So let's jump back into the questions. So Greg, how often do you put your product/solution in front of an actual potential buyer to get their opinion on whether or not it delivers the solution they're looking for?
We're very agile in nature. So we use the Agile operating system as well as the 4 disciplines of execution operating systems. And both of those operating systems say, fail fast, right? Produce something and fail fast. So we do, first of all, a lot of work getting an idea on the front end. And then we do a mock-up, then a beta. This happens in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So we usually will produce some element of what it is that we're trying to present to the market in 2 weeks, get feedback, and then put it back in and then keep developing it. The last startup I did, to give you an idea of how fast this is, the last startup I did went from the startup stage to exit in a year and a half. And it was a multi-million-dollar exit. So that's how fast, you can actually produce these products, get them to market, get feedback, produce, go back and forth. I mean, it's as agile as you could possibly imagine. Yeah. Also, Greg, I wanted to touch on something on the previous question. I wanted to warn people that are listening that you don't want to necessarily follow your competitors. I see this all the time where people say, well, they have it, we have to do it. Your competitors may be on the wrong track. Mm-hmm. So, quantify and qualify what they're doing before you just follow them because they have it. Sorry, I just wanted to...
No, that's great advice. It really is. And we all fall victim to that sometimes, for sure. Just because they're doing something doesn't mean it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, or just because they're big. I mean, big companies make mistakes too, and actually they make more and they can afford to. If you're a smaller company or a startup, you can't afford to make the same mistakes they do, so don't follow them.
Yeah. So given the fact that you're agile and super agile, I mean, startup to exit, multi-million-dollar exit in 18 months, that's incredible. How do you forecast wallet share?
Internal products, the algorithm I use for internal products, so I consider products that are going to create efficiencies, internal products, right, that employees use. So I look at time savings, times the number of times it's done, times the number of people that do it, and then get an annual savings out of it. So if somebody says, I do this, it takes me 10 minutes to do it, I do it 10 times a day, and you figure out that you've got 100 people doing that, and then you figure out your average cost per hour, you can figure out how much that product is worth if you can create an efficiency that eliminates that 10 minutes. So that's sort of how I figure out the what I would consider to be wallet share on that side, which is because it's internal and the customer is actually us. External products are based on the metric either based on a point solution or a product feature. So in our space, it's a little unique in that this is all case by case because it's based on the client's KPIs, and that can change in what I call now time. So a key performance indicator, I say key is the item, so this is the objective. Performance is what performance is expected, and the indicator is where we're performing now. So, when we look at this wallet share, what we do is we look at the KPIs, and then we act, extremely fast, what I call now time, based on those KPIs. So the forecast is done with those two algorithms. I know it's not traditional, but it allows you to move much faster and much more real time based on real empirical data and not based on market information, which can steer you the wrong direction oftentimes.
Yeah. So that algorithm was time savings times number of times I do it times number of people doing it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's your internal product one, and that's basically what calculates the savings. Time savings.
Yeah. And then that savings, remember, that savings is the same as revenue, and oftentimes worth more than revenue because you're also eliminating moving parts through automation. Yep. So the moving parts creates distraction creates reset times. So, Stanford did a study that said that if somebody is working on a project and then they get distracted, to get back to 100% productivity, it takes like 10 to 15 minutes. Yep. So, you're really, if that thing takes 10 minutes, but it creates a distraction and then somebody has to reset back to 100% productivity, it's really 20 minutes. So you can actually really, really add to your bottom line by eliminating these distractions and moving parts from the process through automating things. And I figure out what to automate by documenting everything that people do through best practices and then reading through the best practices to find things to eliminate.
Yep.
And then again, on the external products, it's mostly driven through KPIs.
Yep.
Look at the KPIs, see how it's performing, see how much the clients care by which KPIs they decide to use, and then drive product and product then driving wallet share based on that, using that metric.
Yeah. Okay, my last question for you is, I'm blown away by startup to exit in 18 months, which tells me you have a fantastic way of getting to product market fit super fast. And unfortunately, some of our listeners and watchers have to waste millions of dollars and years of their life experimenting until they find product market fit. So how do you get there so quick?
I think that, well, first of all, I think that in my space, I think I have an advantage because I've been in my space for, a long time, like 20 years. So I think that I've seen things coming just from, watching things over and over and over again. And, like politics or finance or anything else, you see trends and then you create algorithms, and then those algorithms are repeated over time, and you're able to, get faster and more efficient with anything that you build if you know the space. But I do use a very particular process. That would take me, it'd actually be a whole nother podcast, but okay. I do use a specific process, an algorithm being a formulation that always ends up at the same result to do this. And every time I use the same algorithm, the process is getting empirical information. So what I mean by that is real, not hearsay, not what the competitors are doing and not what one prospect is telling you, but really evaluating all of the stakeholders, the salespeople, the people that are dealing with the clients, the people that are dealing with the partners, and listening to the competitors and looking at the whole space to figure out where real pain points are. Again, the first thing I think that makes things sell quickly is eliminating frustrations. I mean, in life, a frustration, that is the biggest thing. If somebody came to you and said, listen, I can make it so you can go in the carpool lane and never have to be in traffic again, how fast would you listen to that conversation?
Yeah, right away. Yep.
If somebody said to you, anything that frustrates you is something that people listen to. So when I go about this process, the first thing I find out is what is frustrating people. Because the key, if something is frustrating somebody, it means they haven't figured out how to solve it in-house, and it means that there is not another competitor that does it, or that frustration would have been resolved. Yeah. So the key is you find the frustration, and the frustration leads you to the opportunity and the problem.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, listen, we are out of time, unfortunately. I could talk to you forever. Maybe we'll have you on the show to talk in more depth about that product market fit process. But Greg, you're obviously a brilliant product strategist and technologist, having launched 20 companies. So I can't thank you enough for coming on our show and offering up your wisdom and guidance to our audience. So I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, and I want to thank you, our SBI audience, for tuning in. If you want to learn more about injecting buyer behavior into product strategy, going beyond just injecting it into sales and marketing, and all the other emerging best practices top leaders like Greg are deploying to make their numbers, go to salesbenchmarkindex.com/register and subscribe. But until next time, I wish you good luck as you try and make your number.
This has been the SBI Podcast. For more information on SBI services, case studies, the SBI team and how we work, or to subscribe to our other offerings, please visit us at salesbenchmarkindex.com.